9. Daphne Ann Crawford. In Prairie Grove, Arkansas in 2016, 29-year-old Daphne Ann Crawford and her husband Alan Lewis Crawford Jr. were eating at a diner when an argument broke out between the couple and some employees. Before they left, the couple, who had recently converted to Islam, allegedly told a waitress, "People like you are the reason we kill." Disturbing posts about the incident appeared on social media under the Crawfords' names, including a photo of Alan holding an assault rifle. Daphne was accused of threatening to have her husband shoot a witness who commented on a post about the argument at the diner. During a search of the hotel room the couple was staying in, law enforcement found 3 AR-15 rifles, a 12-gauge shotgun, 6 handguns, over 2,000 rounds of ammunition, anti-anxiety pills, and marijuana. They were charged under state and federal law for various drug and weapons-related crimes, and Daphne was charged with terroristic threatening. In an interview with the local station KNWA, a childhood friend of Daphne's suspected that she had been brainwashed. The person remembered Daphne as a sweet person and recalled feeling shocked when her social media posts suddenly became hateful towards Christians. She also began acting strangely, including telling people that her son had been taken away when she still had full custody of the child. The federal charges against Daphne were dropped several months later, and the outcome of the state charges remains unclear. 8. Tristan Green and Dawn Embry. One night in 2017, an off-duty deputy witnessed a fight happening in the parking lot of a Publix grocery store in St. Augustine, Florida. He called 911 and described seeing 3 women run up to an SUV and attack a woman while she exited the vehicle. The off-duty cop said that the assault happened for no reason, but the people involved told a different story. 21-year-old Tristan Green, 19-year-old Dawn Embry, and 22-year-old Brittany Farmer allegedly hit the victim and pulled her hair. The trio reportedly claimed that the fight stemmed from an argument that started on Facebook. Brittany Farmer's kids were in her car nearby during the incident, according to an arrest report, but she wasn't arrested because she couldn't find someone to come pick the children up. Embry and Green were charged with battery, and police said that Embry was intoxicated at the scene. The story fell quiet after it was initially reported by the local press, and the outcome of the case is unclear. 7. Teen Twitter beef turns deadly. 18-year-old Gerald Parker was just weeks away from graduating high school in 2016 when he and his friend Javon Frazier posted tweets accusing another young man of not being able to rap. It sparked a social media feud between the two groups of friends, leading to plans for Parker and Frazier to fight 19-year-old Devin Leggett on an Indianapolis street. During the brawl, Leggett shot Parker multiple times. Emergency responders soon arrived and rushed Parker to the hospital, but he died from his injuries. Witnesses told investigators that they heard at least 10 gunshots. David Sullivan, who lived nearby, told the Indiana Daily Student that the gunfire sounded like it was happening right outside his front door. He threw himself on top of his 9-year-old son to protect the youngster and held him on the floor until the shooting stopped. Sullivan was left feeling unsafe in his own home and said that he planned to move out once his lease was up. He blamed social media for the violence, describing it as a cancer on society with no cure. Parker's mother, Sonica Jackson Jones, told Fox 59 that she was devastated to lose her son over a petty spat that led to gun violence. She said that she wanted young people to understand that they need to think before they act. As part of a plea deal, prosecutors dropped a murder charge against Leggett, and he instead pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison. 6. Kathleen Boyer and Kayla Van Wert. When Kathleen Boyer began to suspect her boyfriend of still being involved with his child's mother, Kayla Van Wert, in 2016, she began a social media feud with the young woman, who eagerly played into the drama. They agreed to meet up for a street fight in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where they both lived. The teen enemies exchanged blows in an alleyway while a crowd looked on. At some point, Boyer brandished a knife and stabbed Van Wert repeatedly. The victim died from her injuries, and Boyer was charged with murder. In the time leading up to her death, Van Wert was staying with her friend, Roxanne Draper, who told local station WNEP that she tried to talk the young mom out of going to the fight, but Draper's pleas fell on deaf ears. And the next thing she knew, she was receiving news that her friend had passed away. Boyer's attorneys argued that she stabbed Van Wert in self-defense, but she ultimately pleaded guilty to third-degree murder and was sentenced to 7 to 20 years in prison. 5. Christopher Marquis and Chris Dean. At a time when a home internet connection was just starting to become a staple of American households, a young man from Fairhaven, Vermont, named Christopher Marquis, spent the majority of his time online. While he had a reputation of being polite and well-liked in person, the teen was known for being abusive and perhaps even diabolical from behind a computer screen. Starting in the late 90s, Marquis bought and sold CB radio parts over the internet, but didn't always make good on his deals with buyers. In fact, some say the operation was entirely a scam. Perhaps it was only a matter of time before a disgruntled customer took their frustrations out on Marquis. That person happened to be a truck driver from Indiana named Chris Dean, who paid $400 for some equipment he never received. Dean sent threatening messages to Marquis online and told his friends that he planned to hurt the young man, but his harassment failed to remedy the situation. One day in 1998, a large and unfamiliar package arrived at the teen's house. Marquis opened the box while his mother, Sheila Rockwell, curiously looked on. Before either of them could realize it contained a pipe bomb, the device exploded, killing Marquis and seriously injuring his mother. Sheila told police about the threats from Dean, and he immediately became the focus of their investigation. He eventually admitted to the crime and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. In 2000, Sheila visited Dean in hopes of gaining some insight into his reasons for killing her son. She told the Bear Montpelier Times-Argus that he didn't give a reason. Instead, he said that he wished he knew why he chose to send Marquis a bomb, and described mentally spiraling out of control in the time leading up to the crime. And while Sheila found forgiveness in her heart for the injuries the explosion left her with, she said she couldn't forgive Dean for killing Christopher, and that she wished she had gotten a clear answer about why he saw murder as the answer for his dispute with the young man. 4. Deadly Catfish Love Triangle. In 2005, a married father in his 40s named Thomas Montgomery went online posing as a fit single Marine in his 20s named Tommy. The factory worker from Clarence, New York, began an intense, long-distance romance with who he thought was a glamorous 18-year-old named Jesse. But the relationship fell apart in early 2006 after Montgomery's wife found out about the affair on the family's computer and told Jesse the truth about her husband, including his real age. Montgomery remained obsessed with Jesse and couldn't stop himself from continuing to communicate with her. She occasionally entertained his romantic advances, only to shut him down and remind him that it was over for good between them. In the meantime, Montgomery's 22-year-old coworker, Brian Barrett, began chatting with Jesse. The situation quickly devolved into a rage-fueled love triangle that played out almost entirely through instant messages, yet consumed the lives of everyone involved. In addition to threatening Barrett online, Montgomery became entangled in a workplace rivalry with the young man that dragged on for months. Finally, one night, Montgomery reached his breaking point. He shot Barrett dead in the factory's parking lot while he sat in his car. In the end, it turned out that Barrett was the only person in the love triangle who didn't disguise his real identity. Like Montgomery, Jessie was middle-aged and falsely portraying herself as a much younger person. She used her own daughter's photos to do it and kept up the facade the entire time she was interacting with the two men. Montgomery pleaded guilty to murder and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. 3. TORRIE Lynn Emery and Daniel Booth. In 2010, 23-year-old TORRIE Emery and 20-year-old Daniel Booth found themselves competing for the affections of a prisoner. The romantic rivals became entangled in a heated Facebook feud. But at some point, Daniel Booth apparently got fed up with the drama and filed a police report against Emery. Just days later, Emery spotted Booth in the passenger seat of another young woman's car in Pontiac, Michigan. She chased the vehicle and rammed it several times as the driver, 21-year-old Alicia Abernathy, attempted to escape. With both cars reaching speeds of over 80 miles per hour, 129 kilometers per hour, Abernathy ran a red light and crashed into a dump truck. She died in the collision, and Booth was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Emery, whose young child was in the car during the reckless pursuit, fled the scene, but a detective quickly caught up with her. She was charged with murder, assault, and child abuse. On the day of her arraignment, her mother, Tracy Emery, stood outside the courthouse and offered another version of the story. She claimed that Booth and Abernathy saw Emery at a fast food restaurant that day, and that the young woman harassed her daughter and challenged her to chase them. Tracy said that TORRIE didn't mean to kill anyone, but that her intention was merely to fight. It's unclear whether those claims were presented in court, but if they were, they did little to help Emery's case. She pleaded no contest to second-degree murder and received an 18 to 60-year prison sentence. At her sentencing, Emery apologized to Abernathy's family and expressed remorse for her actions. 2. Anthony GELIA. As most of America braced themselves on election night in 2017 to find out who the country's new leader would be, 19-year-old Anthony GELIA got drunk and sought revenge against his brother over a recent social media spat. He would later claim that he received several threats from his brother on Facebook before he made the fateful decision to chug a bottle of liquor on Facebook Live and proceed to a home in Jackson, Michigan, where his brother was hanging out with a group of people. GELIA still had the camera rolling when he kicked down the door of the home and immediately began shooting at the people inside. He fired 9 shots total, including one at 26-year-old Brittany Southwell, who was holding her newborn at the time. Southwell was rushed to the hospital but died from her injuries. GELIA fled the scene, but was soon pulled over by police and taken into custody. During questioning, he admitted to the shooting, but claimed that he purposely avoided aiming at anyone because his intention was just to scare everybody. He further admitted that he planned to flee to Mexico before he got caught and acknowledged that he deserved to go to prison for what he did. But GELIA changed his tune the next day and tried to pass the buck to his brother's ex-girlfriend, whom he accused of persuading him to commit the crime. The court was shown footage from his Facebook Live broadcast, which showed GELIA making repeated threats to shoot police officers and saying that he was going to prison and planned to join a white supremacist gang. GELIA was sentenced to life without parole for first-degree murder, home invasion, and a felony gun charge. He appealed his sentence, claiming that it constituted cruel and unusual punishment, but the ruling was upheld and he'll live out the rest of his years in the Michigan State Prison System. 1. Joshua Gorgone and Denise Williams. In 2021, 54-year-old Denise Williams searched on Facebook Marketplace for a mini refrigerator as a gift for her boyfriend. She found a seller in Geestown, Pennsylvania named Joshua Gorgone and went to his apartment to pick it up. While she was there, they got into an argument over the price, and Gorgone flew into a rage. He stabbed Denise dozens of times. When she failed to return home that evening, her family reported her missing. The next day, police found Denise's body in Gorgone's apartment. It was clear, based on her injuries, that she didn't make it easy for Gorgone to kill her, and that she died fighting for her life. Gorgone was convicted of all counts in the case, including criminal homicide, robbery, theft, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence. He was sentenced to life in prison. The case highlighted the dangers of traveling to a stranger's home to buy something posted for sale online. Following Denise's murder, local officials urged residents to use caution when engaging in these types of transactions. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be relentlessly pursued for months by an unstable social media user who took a petty disagreement way too seriously, or work for an employer who insists on being able to view your social media content? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe.